I'll turn it on.
Okay.
Okay, hang on a second. We're good.
Okay. George and I married late. I was 27, an old maid, and he was 32. And so anyway.
So how'd you guys meet?
Well, they know that story.
No, they don't. I don't know.
We just talked about it earlier tonight.
Oh.
Tell him, though. He doesn't know.
Well, I used to pal around with Tootie McGough, and she came from a big family of about 7 kids. And one of her sisters went with this guy in Northfield, Earl Crookshank.
No,
And he was the best man in the wedding, by the way.
okay.
And anyway, they went together, and they got married during the war. Towards the end of the war, they bought a house, and we had a some of the friends had a what do you call it?
Housewarming party?
Housewarming. And so anyway, I went to the housewarming, and George was there with some girl, and anyway, we had this housewarming. And at the time, I was teaching, and during school vacation, I had a job at the People's National Bank, and I had a teller's thing of my own, and people would come in with their bank books to be verified, and then I would have to look it up and see if the two matched, you know.
Now, in those days, they didn't have computers. They had books.
That's
you had to
right.
go into
Everything,
books.
yeah, right. And that's why now, when I go to a bank to make a deposit or something, say, "Oh, the computers are down." I said, "Hey, look, I worked in a bank in the 40s, and I said we did everything ourselves."
So
I'm always complaining.
So this
about
is off subject a little bit, but like say, if I say I come in and make a deposit, so they look up under L's, and then they'd find Larry Laguerre,
yeah,
and then they would add $25 to my account or something like that.
Yeah,
And then,
and then
okay, so did they have checks in those days?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so say I drew a check, how would it end up in that book, in that ledger?
Well, that I don't know. See, because I didn't do that part. All I did was this verifying job.
Oh,
and I don't know how.
Okay, I'm just curious.
They took your money, put it in your book, and then they wrote it down that you had put in that amount of money, and then so this had to match that when it came to me.
Really?
So
would
anyway,
that happen very often? People come in all the time asking how much they had in the bank?
Well, a lot of people did. The older folks, you know, the first of the month.
Yeah.
But this was staged by the bank, this verifying deal.
Right.
They had never done it before, and I don't know if they ever did it since, but anyway. So anyway, I'm there working on one Saturday. Oh, and I was telling a cutie pie over here that we used to have some great dances in Manchester. The big bands would come by. We had
Manchester, Connecticut, or up?
No, yeah,
In
Barry, Vermont.
Barry,
I should have said. Yeah, and Glenn Miller came there, and Count Basie, and all those guys.
So big bands.
They're really big bands. So anyway, this day when I was working at the bank, Earl comes in, and he was a very bashful type, something like Brian. And he sidles up to the thing, and he said, "George wants to know if you want to go to the New Year's dance." And you would swear he was asking for himself, you know, because he was so nervous. so anyway, we went to that dance. So, but to get back, I don't know how I got on that, to tell you the truth. But anyway, let's see now, what would be next? So we lived.
So Earl, where did Earl live after he got married? Up in Vermont somewhere?
In that house where they had the housewarming.
Oh yeah, but I was in Northfield or somewhere around there.
That was in Barrie.
Oh, Barrie. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, eventually we got married. George and I got married, and I became pregnant, and we lived down in Cobalt for a while. Then we bought the house in Manchester, Connecticut. So Art used to move around a lot because he worked for Kresge, and he lived everywhere. But anyway, he happened to come for the weekend. And he was married too. I guess his family must have been living some other place at that time, and so he was in the vicinity. So I said, "We'll come over for the weekend." So on, I think it was Sunday, these guys decided to go skiing. So we jump in the car, the three of us, and go to Mohawk Mountain skiing. So while I was there, my water broke. Oh, and incidentally, I was living in Cobalt at, I think I was living in Manchester. Oh, I know what. When I first became pregnant, I got this doctor from East Hartford, and I used to have to drive back and forth for appointments. And then when I moved to Manchester in November, I kept the same doctor. And so my child was due in April. And this is February that we went to ski. And my doctor was in New Orleans at the Mardi Gras. I didn't know a soul in Manchester. I didn't know that the girl across the street was a nurse. So anyway, when this water broke, and
so you hadn't lived there too long then. You hadn't lived in Connecticut. You hadn't lived at 36 Jarvis Road very long, right?
We had lived there since November.
Oh yeah. Okay, so this is 4 months. Okay.
Yeah. And so when my water broke, I called this gal across the street, Mrs. Russell. You remember any of the Russells?
Yeah, I remember the name. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was a nurse, and I asked her for the name of a doctor. I said, "It's got to be a Catholic doctor," blah, blah, blah. But she didn't, I don't know if she knew any Catholic doctors. I think they were all gone. So what? But anyway, she recommended this Dr. Miller. So I called him, and he came and examined me, and but he didn't say, head for the hospital or anything. So I stayed home that night. And I think I went to the hospital in the middle of the night. So, in the morning, I'm expecting a baby.
Yeah.
In the morning, they came in and you said, "Oh, you have two beautiful boys." I almost flipped. I wasn't ready for one. I hadn't bought a crib or any of that stuff. And I didn't have anything. So anyway, that was the story on that. And then
because in those days you're out cold during the birth, right? So that's how you didn't know there was two babies, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think they were surprised too. See, at that time you didn't have any of these tests. What's that test they give you?
Ultrasound.
Ultrasound. I never had an ultrasound exam or anything. So I never knew if the baby was male or female, because I never wanted to know anyway. I always told my kids, "Don't tell me if you know, because I want a surprise grandchild,
Now, Dr. Miller, he didn't know there was twins either, though, right?
Apparently.
During the exam and stuff like that,
Yeah,
he didn't know
at
there was
least
twins.
if he did, he didn't tell me.
Uh-huh.
So, anyway, so the first baby born weighed 2 pounds, 13 and a half ounces. Believe it or not. The second baby weighed 4 something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that baby was named Mark.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so, and I think you were in the hospital at least 5 weeks with what they do for
Incubator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always thought that's why your eyes were not good, because
That's what I think it is.
yeah, I think so.
But so was I really on the ropes really bad, or I just needed to have oxygen, or was like, this kid is going fast, he's gonna goner?
No, they didn't. I don't think they acted as if there was much danger with you. And I said, well, how come the larger baby is the one that died? And they said, well, because they go through a trauma waiting to be born or whatever they said.
Oh, number 2 has a tougher time than number 1.